The ideas and opinions shared by the program host do not reflect those of the producer, guests, and past, present, or future affiliates. The general public has the right and is encouraged to opine in the comment section. As a reminder, offense is taken and not given. Reflections of the campaign trail. First, I have to say that it was one of the most terrifying decisions that I've ever made in my life. And you know, you would think that me being in the public eye for so long that it would be a natural transition. And in a way, it was a natural transition. However, it's one thing to stand in front of a crowd and to entertain them and to MC an event and to move the event along, or to do fundraisers to raise money for other people. That's always been easy for me, you know, for a good cause. But to stand face to face to an individual and ask them for their support, for their vote of confidence, or to stand in front of an individual and ask them for money because I need it for my campaign, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And you have to cultivate this confidence in yourself that is on the borderline of narcissism and arrogance. And so now it gave me a greater understanding of looking at politicians before, and I'll use this as a specific example. Politicians that I didn't care for, that I didn't like, who I thought were quote unquote shady. And this was back when I was a lot more ignorant with respect to government and politics. And I used to ask myself, how can that individual continue to smile even though somebody's like giving them dirty looks or telling them, you know, I don't like you, you're a crook. And it's not because they're bad people, and it's not because that's how slimy and evil they are. No, it's because they've accepted the fact that they will be exposing themselves to situations that are extremely awkward, extremely uncomfortable, that would make most individuals shy away. And you have to be able to smile at people and to treat them with respect, you know, common courtesy and consideration, despite the fact that they don't want to shake your hand, or they don't even want to look your direction when you're trying to speak to them, or flat out looking at you, you know, saying, fuck you, I don't like you. It's something else, you know, and all candidates expose themselves to that. So to all the candidates who ran in this past election, you know, my hat goes off to you. And I have a lot of respect to all of you for pushing through it and for believing in yourselves, and for cultivating a group of individuals who believed enough in you to support you throughout it, because we would not have been able to make it through the campaign without their support. And it's extremely humbling, like fall to your knees humbling, when people come up to you and say, I'm going to vote for you. I like what you believe in. I like what you said. I believe in it myself. I believe in you. You have my vote. You know, when that first started coming in, not to sound like a beta, but man, it would bring me to tears, because again, it's so humbling, so ridiculously humbling. Just thinking about it right now kind of brings back that feeling. And I don't feel that I let them down because I didn't make it. It just means that I have to inspire more people to vote for me the next time. And I'd rather go through this process. I mean, some of our longest standing politicians had to run 2 or 3 times just to make it in, because they needed to get out there more often. They needed their voice to be heard through 2 or 3 elections in order for enough people to finally get the message to say, yes, we want this individual to represent us. And with respect to the legislature, there is no one senator that has a solution to all problems. That's why we have 15, right? It takes a collective of 15 to bring together the ideas, to find middle ground, because the middle ground is where we'll find the most harmonious solutions. One side shouldn't win, because if one side wins, the other side loses, and all of the people they represent lose. So when you have this tug of war, that's really not productive at the end of the day. But I digress. So yeah, standing in front of an individual, asking them for their vote of confidence, or to consider me as their candidate for one of their 15 votes, and then to ask people for their money, because you can't run a campaign without money. Now, the amount of money, that depends on the strategy and the team and the reach of the candidate. Some people were able to raise a lot of money. Some people had a lot of resources coming into the campaign. More power to them. Realities versus misconceptions. Realities of being a candidate. If you've never run before and you're thinking about running in 2020, be prepared to be shaken to your core, because it doesn't matter how much you get ready for it. No, I can't say it's like having a child. That's not a good comparison. The only comparison I can say is that even if you think you're ready, you're not. But that's okay. It's absolutely okay, because the more prepared you are, the better you'll be able to deal with the unexpected. It's not glamorous at all. It's extremely tiring. Most of the candidates, most of us had to work 2 jobs, because you have your day job, and then once you get off of your job, then you have to go campaign. People are scrutinizing your every step. And I know, I was criticized a couple times. People misunderstood what I was doing, and they thought that I was campaigning during work hours, and they were quick to report it to the media. Fortunately, the media double-checked before they ran the story, so I'm very grateful for that they checked their sources, made sure, instead of running it. And I'm not grateful to that because they didn't make me look bad in the media. I'm grateful to them for actually doing what journalists should do, is verify the story before they run it. So kudos to all of you. Interestingly enough, I was smeared during the campaign. And I found it kind of flattering. I was like, wow, I'm that much of a threat to certain individuals that they felt that they had to tear me down. And of course, they used an issue that I did actually address. However, I was taken out of context, and that's fine. It happens. Again, people were telling me, hey, this is happening and they're smearing your name. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, absolutely nothing. I accepted this. And so there was no truth to the claims, so I didn't feel the need to validate the smearing by addressing it. It was a strategy choice. It's not the kind of strategy I choose to do. I took it on the chin, and that's fine. And I continued to move on. And I don't hold any grudges to the individuals who are trying to smear my name. Again, we all have decisions to make. We all have choices to make. We all take the actions based on those choices. And at the end of the day, if there are consequences to those choices, we'll have to deal with them. My platform, and I'm just kind of moving along. For those of you who didn't get to hear what my platform really centered around, it centered around the economy. I felt it was a boring platform, of course, because not too many people are interested in the economy. They want to talk about things like healthcare and education and public safety. But at the core of all of these issues is money. And so the better the economy is in the island, the more revenue, technically, the government will generate. But this is where I'm kind of at an impasse, because I don't believe that we should look to the government to solve all of our problems. We as individuals know what our problems are. We as individuals know the best solution to those problems. We water down the solutions when we ask the government to deal with it. So I believe that the government should create more opportunities for us as individuals, or for us as a community, to solve our problems together. Because whenever we ask the government to solve our problems, the government has to take more money from the working class to pay for the solutions. And how often do those solutions work? And it's not to say anything about government employees or government officials. They're trying their best. They have good intentions, but we know what they say about good intentions. So if a law sounds good and it makes you feel good, that's probably the first red flag. The main question we should ask is, does the law do good? And I like to use this analogy. Usually the things that are what's best for us, we don't want to do. And when we're growing up and our parents tell us to clean our room, we don't want to do it. but they're trying to teach us skills, they're trying to teach us responsibilities. It's good for us. And usually the things that we need to do are the last things that we want to do. Easier said than done, right? Because I myself have to deal with these issues. But I'm by no means rich. I'm one of you who survives paycheck to paycheck. However, I accept that everything I have is based on the work that I'm willing to do. And if I want more, I have to be willing to take on more responsibility, and I have to be willing to put in more work for it. I've been very fortunate in both careers to have had a lot. And I have to admit that I took a lot of it for granted. And so you have this ebb and flow in life where you're successful and you're not. To expect to be successful all of the time is to be naive to life and its challenges. So let's bring it back to the economy. I was very bold, especially as a Republican, with respect to my ideas for the economy. I'm all about new industries, because that's how we can continue to grow. We have our established industries, and there's nothing wrong with growing those. But I believe the best way, or one of the best ways to help the existing industries grow is by creating new ones, right? And really, it's just 3 industries that I had in mind, because there are a plethora of them. And again, I don't claim to have all the solutions. But the FCC, and I'm not talking about the Federal Communications, I'm talking about the film industry, I'm talking about cannabis, and I'm talking about regulated casino gaming. Film industry, I spent 2.5 years at Gita researching the film industry. That's why I was brought there, was to try and develop the rules and regulations. And when I first got in there, I thought it was this monumental task. And so I began to do my research. And when it came down to it, the rules and the regulations come down to 10 points. And that's truly it. The rest of it is creating incentives for film companies to come to Guam. I don't have the data right now that I can show to you, but I will cite with respect to the average revenue that is generated annually, or the average annual revenue that is generated currently with our fledgling film industry is about $9 million. There's an organization called the Guam International Media Coordinators Association, GIMCA. They're a collective of private companies that service film crews that come to Guam from Japan or Korea to film their commercials or music videos. I know some of you out there have probably either participated in these productions or have seen these productions going on. I know that the Guam Fire Department, they had their big debut with the fire trucks and the hoses going off. I think they were in a music video. So, I mean, this is great stuff, right? It makes Guam look good in the pop culture in these 2 countries. We're already generating $9 million worth of revenue. How can we create incentives to attract more businesses? How can we create incentives for these countries to film their soap operas here, to film their next movie here? Because what does that do? That helps to create jobs for locals. And I know that there is at least 1,000 to 1,500 individuals locally right now who actively are pursuing careers in the film industry. Unfortunately, most of them will end up leaving probably if their heart is really in it. I know I have 2 colleagues who are probably 2 of the best filmmakers on island who are talking about leaving island for opportunities. And it breaks my heart. I would never stop them, right? It's their choice to do it. But if we can create our own version of Hollywood in Guam, of course, it's not going to be as big and it's not going to be as glitzy or glamorous. But if we can lead the way and be the pioneers of our own film industry here, I think that's way more gratifying. And I think the opportunity for us to be successful, the chances for that are a lot higher than going to Hollywood and competing with tens and thousands of individuals out there. One of the incentives that I came up with to help solidify consistent, or to help ensure consistent filming activity in Guam, is to create a qualifying certificate or a film investment incentive for a production company to build a film studio in Guam that will also serve as an academy for creative technology. I love the acronym ACT. Now, how does this work? Same way we do it with the hotels. We create an investment incentives via tax rebates or tax abatements, so that when the investor comes in and pours millions and millions of dollars into building and constructing this film studio, sound stage, an academy for creative technology, they can get the return on the back end. We can go to film studios like Sony, Paramount, MGM. Wait, I think that's the same, MGM Paramount. I don't know if we want to go to Harvey Weinstein's production company right now until all that scandal rolls over. We can go to Japan. We can go to Korea. We can go to the Philippines. Philippines has its own film industry there. But we present this incentive, investment incentive, to these different production companies, within our region, particularly, to see if they have interest. And a lot of people have told me, well, that's never going to happen. It's like, sure, fair enough, but let's try. Just because there are certain people who think it's never going to happen doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I'll get more into that. I think I'll do a whole segment on the film industry, and I'll bring in the presentation that I created while I was still at GITA. Senator-elect Tina Muñoz-Barnes, future speaker. Hopefully they can take the rules and regulations and everything that I put together, and so that they can get it to you, because I know you originally came up with the bill. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I apologize that it took me so long to put that together, but you're back in office, and hopefully you can push this through and create more opportunities for our local artists. I have a script that's based on the legend, Two Lovers Point. And the best way to market that to the world is it's the Romeo and Juliet of the Pacific. Everybody around the world knows the story of Romeo and Juliet. It's a tragic romance love story. It was locally written, first of all, so the intellectual property belongs to a Chamorro. We can hire a lot of Chamorro actors. We need to hire our local artisans to build an ancient Chamorro village. Construction activity to build the sets for the Spanish palaces and whatnot. It creates a lot of activity. Of course, are we going to pay for it, or are we going to try and attract a foreign production company to do it? This is where we start to have more deep discussions on the subject. So that's the F in the FCC. The next, cannabis. We've already gotten to the point where we had a referendum. Individuals have voted yes on allowing those with prescriptions. I actually have a prescription, but I have no place to get my medication. I'm not going to go down that rail. I know there are a couple of individuals who have made the news with respect to pushing this, like, I've got my medication, you're saying I can't use it. I mean, that battlefront is fine, but I appreciate the revisions in the law that Senator Luis Muñoz had placed in there, allowing individuals to grow it up to 9 plants, which is, it's kind of difficult to keep that ratio, because if you know anything about agriculture, horticulture, 9 plants meaning 3 sprouting, 3 mid-stage or vegetative, and then 3 flowering. But in order to get the 3 sprouts, you kind of have to lay down more than 3. And once you've established those 3 sprouts, then you kill the rest. So, there's some gray areas there. Then what if an individual can't grow it? Then you have the stipulation where you can get a caretaker to grow it. There must be a fence around it, whatever. There's all those details to it. But the reason why I like that so much is because that's opening the door for dispensaries. I believe the vast majority of people don't want to deal with the growing of the marijuana. I should call it cannabis. Now, there's a percentage of individuals saying, let me just grow it. Sure, that's fine. But we have to remember that there's a lot of individuals out there, there's a lot of people out there who don't want this to be a law. And so those were the people that I wanted to talk to first, because talking to everyone who supports it, it's preaching to the choir. And of course, there's a moral concern with respect to regulated adult use cannabis. And then there's the public safety aspect of it. So to me, and to the vast majority of individuals that I've spoken to, when I explain to them that when we create an industry out of this, again, I go back to, we generate tax revenue for the government, because now you have new businesses popping up, more people being hired. Now, not only does this company open up and hire employees, but now they need to be serviced by other industries. So we create this new industry, and it has to be serviced by existing industries. And in order for the existing industries to service them, they must grow and expand as well. So you have a place where somebody with a prescription can go and purchase their medication freely and openly. They'll get taxed for it. Now, mind you, the prices on these commodities have to compete with the black market. If they don't, then what's the point? The lab costing $1 million, the government shouldn't pay for that. Allow the private sector to deal with that. Why should the government have to pay for it? Again, when we look to the government to solve our problems, it has to take money from the working class to figure out what the solutions are. When the private sector and the market is already looking at these issues, and we have local entrepreneurs who are already out there with plans just waiting to be unleashed. Now, I know a lot of people get scared when I use the term unleashed, but what I mean is there's so much potential, but it's being restricted by government regulations and laws that really aren't helping. They're just there to make people feel good. I believe in our people. I believe that the vast majority of them are responsible, law-abiding citizens who are just looking for opportunities. We have to be bold. We have to be willing to take a risk. And if it doesn't work, we must be willing to acknowledge that. So I'd say that to both sides of the coin. The last C in my FCC as far as new industries is casino, regulated casino gaming. And this is another moral issue / public safety issue. First concern that comes to people's minds is, well, what about those who are addicted to gambling? And this goes the same with the individuals with cannabis. Oh, now more people are going to start smoking cannabis because it's okay. The law is not saying it's okay. The law is saying for those of you who are consuming this, age 21 and up, prescription or not, I'd say regulated adult use. If you need a prescription, fine. But if you don't and you want to use it recreationally, then there are regulations set in place. But for those individuals with respect to gambling, they're already doing it. They're already gambling. I don't know where, but they are. So shouldn't we tax that revenue that's being exchanged? Now, they're probably going to hate me for saying this, but we're going to meet in the middle because now they don't have to hide. They don't have to be criminals for enjoying the money that they have earned legitimately in a way that makes them feel like criminals. We are criminalizing individuals who want to spend their hard-earned money the way they want to, and they're not harming anybody else in the process of doing it. I may sound like I don't care about anything and all I want is opportunity. And that is incorrect. These are things that I thought deeply on for a very long time, but I realized that it doesn't matter what I as an individual think about a certain issue. Shout out to my colleague Ken Joetta, but when I think deeply about these things, I have to think about them holistically. And he's on point when he says that. You have to look at everything holistically. You have to remove your personal bias from the actual overall judgment of it. So yes, for those who are addicted to gambling, they already are. And so one of the ways we can make it more difficult for our locals to gamble is you could require a license that needs to be renewed annually for anybody who wants to start gambling in these casinos. Either that or they can fly to Saipan. Apparently the casinos are shut down there now for the time being. We'll see what happens there. But the whole point is to generate more revenue for the island. The cannabis and the casino industry can raise a lot of funding for the hospital, which is by law mandated to serve people, and for public safety at the same time. So you're creating what some might consider a public safety concern, but the industry itself is generating revenues for public safety to help address it. For casino, we could put out an RFP, $50 million to buy this license to build your casino. That's $50 million up front, not including construction costs. So right away, we're getting a $50 million infusion. Maybe we put up 2 RFPs so that they can be competing, so that one casino doesn't have a stronghold or a monopoly. So now you have an instant injection of $100 million before construction costs, before any development takes place. And I know that it sounds like a sweet deal, but again, when we look at these things, we have to be responsible. It's not just going to magically take care of itself. And this is where the people of Guam have to be accountable for what we are willing to do. So I understand the magnitude of these decisions. However, the opportunities that they'll create, the funding that it'll generate for issues that we do need to take care of with respect to healthcare and public safety. And I'll get to education right after I'm done with the economy. The jobs that these casinos will create, not just for your servers, your dealers, your concierge, your tellers, the artists. Helicopter, see, they're already on me. But the artists, casinos are all about entertainment. And through casinos, this is one platform or this is one industry that is starving for artists. And when we talk about local artists, a casino can create so many opportunities from them. Or, excuse me, so many opportunities for them. Now, with that being said, any investor investing into a casino is going to expect the best of the best. So our local artists will also have that incentive to step their game up. And there's no reason why we shouldn't, because I know that we can. So those are the three when it comes to new industries that I was talking about with individuals with respect to my platform centering on the economy. There's a film industry, cannabis industry, and regulated casino. We'll go to the education, and I won't spend too much time on that. I'm pretty straightforward about the education system. I like the voucher system. Now, this upsets a lot of people. However, I believe that the parents should have total control when it comes to where the funding for their child is going. We take for granted that if we live in a certain district, then our child needs to go to this school. Now, this is not saying anything, again, I need to stress this. This is not saying anything about the teachers or administrators or any government employee. All I'm saying is give the parents the right to choose where their child goes to school. If they want to send their child to a school that is out of their district and they are willing to drive their child to that school, then so be it. The individuals that have the best interests of their child is not a government official. It's not the Board of Education. It's not the principal. It's not the teacher. It's the parent. The parent. I have 2 daughters. I am deeply concerned about their education. I am involved. I need to be involved if I want my child to perform at their best. I need to work with the teachers. So as a parent, one of my daughters goes to public school, the other goes to a private school. My younger daughter, she needs the extra attention. She needs the extra discipline. And so her mother and I work hard to pay for this private school. So we're paying double for education. And it's not that we don't have faith in the public school system, as we understand the needs of my younger daughter. We understand she needs to be in a lot stricter environment. And of course, we want her to go to a school that has religious values to it. That's also important to me. And so with that said, with the voucher system, yes, give it to the parents, and they should be able to use it at either a public school, a charter school, or a private school. Now, there are those of you who will get upset at me saying that. But the government takes your money, spends it on education, and tells you you don't have a choice as to how they spend it on your child. Consider that. Why should the government tell you, the parent, how to spend your tax dollars for your child? Now, people can argue and say, oh, teachers will lose jobs. Perhaps they'll lose jobs in the public school system, but now they'll have an opportunity to go work for a charter school because the charter school will grow, or they'll have an opportunity to work for a private school because the private school will grow, or they can form together and create a small private school of their own. We're stuck on very traditional concepts of education. When education, when allowed the flexibility to address the needs of your child, can produce the best outcome for your child. So that was really the heart of my platform. And of course, when it comes to what we call pro-choice, I believe everybody is pro-choice. Just I choose life, some choose abortion. So we should change the narrative of that whole thing, and it's pro-abortion and pro-life. I'll leave it at that because I want a whole nother segment for that. My time on this segment is running out. When we come back, it'll be headliners that give me headaches.